Good morning, everyone. In the last session, we discussed about what is cloud computing, cloud computing advantages, what are the advantages of going for cloud computing, AWS introduction. Before that, we discussed about cloud services, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Next, AWS introduction, AWS services overview. So what are the services available and what is the purpose of each service? We discussed. Then AWS regions and availability zones. Regions and availability zones. AWS free tier account creation. Got it? What is cloud computing? Cloud computing advantages, cloud services, AWS introduction, AWS services overview, AWS regions and availability zones, and free tier account creation. We discussed these topics in the previous class. All of you able to create the account in the AWS? All of you able to create the account in the AWS cloud? Still anybody not able to create the account in the AWS? Yep. So you should have an account in the AWS to attend these classes. Perfect. All right. So today we are going to start with one service in the AWS, which is called EC2. We are going to talk about one service in the AWS cloud, which is very famous and which is mandatory that every AWS engineer should know. What is that service? EC2 service. First, EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. What is EC2? EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. It is not cloud compute, guys. It is not cloud compute. It is Elastic Compute Cloud. Elastic Compute Cloud. Now, what is the purpose of this EC2? EC2 service is used to create virtual machines in the AWS cloud. Now, if you want to set up a infrastructure for your application, you need a virtual machine. So you need to use EC2 service to create virtual machine. EC2 is used to create virtual machines. Any number of virtual machines we can create by using this EC2. For example, I want to run Tomcat server. I need Tomcat server to deploy my application. So you need to take one virtual machine and you need to install Tomcat. I want Jenkins server for my project. So you need to take one virtual machine. You need to install Jenkins software. If you want to install Docker, you need to take one virtual machine that is called computing. So whatever the infrastructure you want to create in the AWS cloud, that infrastructure we will create by using EC2 service. EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. EC2 is used to create virtual machine. virtual machine will be called as a instance. Sorry guys. EC2 virtual machine is called as EC2 instance or a VM or a server. Multiple names. EC2 virtual machine is called as EC2 instance, or we can call it as a VM, or we can call it as a server. Now you can create a Linux VM, you can create a Windows VM, and you can create a Mac VM also. You can create Mac VM also by using EC2 service. Now, guys, in this EC2 instances are multiple types. There are several types of EC2 instances are available. On-demanded EC2 instance available, reserved EC2 instance available, dedicated host EC2 instances available. Like that, there are several categories available in the EC2 based on the requirement. We can use these EC2 instances. Sir, when we are using these EC2 instances, what is the billing methodology? EC2 instance billing will be calculated hourly basis. How many hours your EC2 instance will run, for those many hours billing will be generated. EC2 instance billing will be calculated on hourly basis. Minimum billing period, EC2 instance minimum billing period is 1 hour. EC2 instance minimum billing period is 1 hour. What is the meaning of minimum billing period is 1 hour? If you run an EC2 instance for 5 minutes and if you stop it, they are not going to calculate for only 5 minutes. So if you run just for 5 minutes also, that will be considered as 1 hour. EC2 instance minimum billing period is 1 hour. Suppose for example, if you create a instance and you use it for 5 minutes and you stopped it. Again, you started the instance, use it for 5 minutes. Then for first 5 minutes, it will consider as 1 hour. For second 5 minutes, it will consider as a 1 hour. So total 2 hours bill will be calculated. EC2 instance billing will be calculated on hourly basis. EC2 instance minimum billing period is 1 hour. EC2 instance minimum billing period is 1 hour. That billing will be calculated on hourly basis. Right. Note, using AWS free tier account, with AWS free tier account, with AWS free tier account, with AWS free tier account, first 1 year, EC2 instances are free. Monthly 750 hours. Monthly 750 hours. You can use the EC2 instance for free of cost. So as a learner, we are going to use EC2 T2 micro instances. So which instance we are going to use, guys? T2 micro instance we are going to use. Sir, what is this T2 micro? T2 micro instance is one family member. In the EC2, there are several families are available. T1 family, T2 family, T3 family, C1 family, C2 family, like this. They based on the machine configuration, they categorized into several families. So in that, T2 is one family. In the EC2, T2 is one family. So when you go for T2 family instance, there is a family member called micro, T2.micro. T2.micro instances are free for first 1 year. From the date you created the account, from that date to the next 1 year, your account can use EC2 instances for free of cost. Sir, when they are giving for free of cost, how many hours we can run. You can run your EC2 instance monthly 750 hours. For the 750 hours of running your EC2, bill will not be generated. Sir, monthly 30 days per day 24 hours, 30 into 24 is less than 750 only. Then why they have given that 750? It is not only for one. If you create more than one instance, the total hours will be calculated. The total hours your instances execution should be less than 750 hours in a month. So we are going to create multiple EC2 instances using T2 micro. So why we will use this T2 micro? T2 micro is 1 year free from the date you have created account in the AWS. From that date to the next 1 year, T2 micro instances are free of cost. Monthly 750 hours you can run your EC2 instance. So then what about other EC2 instances? They are paid. They are paid. Sir, can I use T2 large instance? When you go for a T2 large instance, hourly bill will be generated. The minimum billing period for EC2 instance is 1 hour. Minimum billing period is 1 hour. Are you guys getting my point? So EC2 is a free service or EC2 is a paid service in the AWS. Guys, EC2 is a free service or EC2 is a paid service in the AWS. EC2 is a free service for first 1 year. In that also, only one category is free, T2 micro. T2 micro is free. First 1 year it is free and monthly 750 hours you can use it. EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. EC2 is used to create virtual machines. It is used to create virtual machines. The virtual machines that we create, the virtual machine that we create using EC2 instance, EC2 service is called as EC2 instance, or it is called as a VM, or it will be called as a server. EC2 instance billing will be calculated on hourly basis. EC2 instance minimum billing period is 1 hour. With the AWS free tier account, first 1 year, EC2 instances are free, monthly 750 hours. Okay, guys. Are you clear with this? Are you clear with this? Next one. EC2 instances are resizable. EC2 instances are resizable. What is the meaning of resizable? We can scale up, we can scale down. So whenever we want, we can increase the service, we can increase the EC2 instances. When we don't want, we can decrease the EC2 instances. Whenever we want, we can increase the EC2 instance. When we don't want, we can decrease the EC2 instances. You can create multiple EC2 instances. We can create multiple EC2 instances and we can use them. EC2 instances are resizable. Scale up, scale down. We can increase the capacity of the system. We can increase the capacity of the system. We can increase the number of EC2 instances based on the requirement, and we can decrease the EC2 instances when we want. more number of machines to run our application. When we need more machines to run our application, then we can create multiple EC2 instances and we can use it. When we don't want those many machines to run our application, we can decrease these EC2 instances. Now, so as a DevOps engineer, we need to set up infrastructure for our application. Okay, so for that, here I will take one machine. In that I will install Jenkins. For installing the Jenkins, we need one EC2 virtual machine. And similarly, I need to install Tomcat server to run my application. So I will take one EC2 instance, EC2 virtual machine I will take. In that virtual machine, I will install Tomcat. Now, next, I will take one machine. In that machine, I will install Sonar. For that, I'm going to use one EC2 VM. Similarly, I'm going to use Docker or Nexus repository server I need. So to install the Nexus repository server, I need one EC2 VM. In my project, I want to use Docker. So I will take one virtual machine. In that virtual machine, I will install Docker. I will take one virtual machine. In that virtual machine, I will install Docker. And I want to use Kubernetes to run my application. So for that Kubernetes, also, I am going to take one EC2 instance. Okay. So mostly, which is service we are going to use in the AWS, guys? When we are working as a DevOps with AWS engineer, which is service we will use mostly in the AWS? Which is service we will use mostly in the AWS? EC2 service we will use in the AWS. What is this EC2? Can you tell me what is the full form of this EC2 and what is the purpose of this EC2? EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. EC2 is the most demanded. EC2 is the most demanded service in the AWS cloud. By using this EC2, we are going to set up our infrastructure. Using EC2, we will create virtual machines. Using EC2, we will create virtual machines. So tomorrow, to set up infrastructure for our application, we need Jenkins, we need Tomcat, we need Sonar, we need Nexus, we need Docker, we need Kubernetes. All these softwares we are going to install by taking separate EC2 instances. Sir, why are you going to take these many instances? Can we install all the softwares in the single machine? Yes, that also you can do. You can install Jenkins, Tomcat, Sonar, Nexus, Docker, Kubernetes, everything you can install in single EC2 instance, but that is not recommended. That is not recommended. So for every software, we will maintain a separate virtual machine in the real time. For every software, we will create a separate virtual machine in the real time. In one virtual machine, only Jenkins will be available. That is called a Jenkins server. That is called Jenkins server. And we will install Tomcat in one virtual machine. That is called as a Tomcat server. That virtual machine is called as EC2 instance. That virtual machine will be called as a server. Then Sonar we will install in one virtual machine, which is used for code review. Sonar server will be available. Nexus repository, which is used to store build artifacts. Our project libraries, jar files, war files will be stored in the Nexus repository. Nexus is used for storing shared libraries. Then next one, Docker. Docker is used for containerization purpose. Next, Kubernetes, it is used for orchestration purpose. So all this infrastructure we will create by using EC2. EC2 is the most EC2 is the most demanded service in AWS cloud. If you want to set up the infrastructure, we need virtual machines. Those virtual machines we are creating by using EC2. Right now, EC2 billing, EC2 instance billing, minimum billing period is 1 hour. Based on hours, they are going to calculate the bill amount. Based on the hours, they are going to calculate the bill amount. Okay, guys. Next, EC2 instances are resizable, scale up, scale down. So when you want to increase the memory, you can increase for that. When you want to decrease the memory, you can decrease that memory with the EC2 instances. Okay, EC2 instance types. In EC2, there are several types available. EC2 instance types. So when you want to create one EC2 instance, you need to select what type of EC2 instance you need. What are the instance types available in the EC2? The first one is on-demand instances. The first one is on-demand instances. Second one, reserved instances. Third one, spot instances. Third one, spot instances. Fourth one, dedicated host. Dedicated host. Like that, there are several instance types available in EC2. Before going to understand instance types, are you clear with this introduction? What is this EC2? Are you clear with this introduction for EC2? All right. Now we are going for instance types. In the EC2, there are several types available. In the EC2, there are several types available. What are the types available? On-demand instances are available. On-demand instances are available. Reserved instances are available. Spot instances are available. Dedicated host instances are available. Now, let me log in into my AWS account so that I can show you. Let's log in into our AWS account. Let's log in into our AWS account. Now, EC2 service, Elastic Compute Cloud. Now, see here, instances types. Instances types are available. Okay, T2 nano, T2 micro, T2 small, T2 medium, T2 large, T2 X large, T3 nano, A1, C4, C5, C5. Like this, there are several instances available. And for if you take T2 micro, okay, how many CPUs you will get, how much RAM memory you are going to get, what is the cost per hour? If it is Linux machine, what is the cost? If it is Windows machine, what is the cost per hour? So here in the instance types, they have given the details clearly. What instances are available? What is the name of the instance? What is the memory that you will get for that instance? And what is the minimum billing amount per hour is the minimum billing period per hour, how many dollars they are going to charge. If you cross that free tier limit for T2 micro, you are under free tier for 1 year, monthly 750 hours. If you cross that limit, if 1 year completed, then for per hour, if it is a Linux machine, $0.0124 per hour. So here Windows machines will have more price than Linux machines. For Windows per hour, how many dollars they are going to take? For Linux, how many dollars they are going to take? They have given clearly here. If you go for T2 large, 2 CPUs, 8 GB RAM, you are going to get 0.09. That means not even $1 per hour. not even $1 per hour. Like this, they have given details. They have given the details clearly for these things. Understood. Now, instance type, spot instances, reserved instances, dedicated host instances available in EC2. I mentioned that instance types. First one is on-demand instances. Second one, reserved instances. Third one, spot instances. Fourth one, dedicated host instances. Okay, guys. So now, when it comes to on-demanded instances, when it comes to on-demand, undemanded instances, we can create these instances whenever we want. Suppose now I want one EC2 instance, then what I will do? I will go to AWS Cloud. I will go to AWS Cloud. I will select launch instance. I'm going to select this. I'm going to select this option and I will be selecting these options. I will launch these instances. Okay, this is a T2 micro. By default, they will give you T2 micro, which is free tier eligible. If you want to change, you can change like this. Whatever you want, you can select. By default, they will give you, by default, they will give you T2 micro, which is free tier eligible. So when I want, I can create one machine, one virtual machine in the AWS cloud. That is called on-demanded instances. When we want a machine, when we need it, when we need it, we can create that machine. When we need it, we can create that machine. For this, fixed price. So as they told that for T2 micro, how much price they are going to charge? For C5A 8x large, how much amount they are going to charge? How much amount they are going to charge hourly basis? That fixed price will be available. Fixed price will be available. Pay for what you use. Pay for what you use. That means if you use the service, then only you pay the money for that. Otherwise, you no need to pay. If you use the EC2 instance for 1 hour, then pay the amount for only 1 hour. If you use the EC2 instance for 10 hours, then pay the money for only for 10 hours. Pay for what you use. In this on-demanded instances, no commitment available. No commitment between the user and AWS. There is no commitment. When you want, you can create a machine and you can use it. No upfront payments. No upfront payments here. Do I need to pay anything first to use this instance, guys? Are we paying anything first? Is it pay first and use it, or it is use it and pay for that? Are we paying anything first to use the service? Are we paying anything first to use the service? Or we are paying the amount after using it? Come on. First payment or payment is at the last? Payment is at the last. No upfront payments available. When we need it, we can create it. When we need it, we can create it. Fixed pricing. Pay for what you use. No commitment. No upfront payments when you go for undemanded instances. So when you are going to the EC2 dashboard and when you try to launch one EC2 instance, by default, which type of instance it is going to launch for us? When we launch one EC2 instance in the AWS cloud, by default, which EC2 instance will be launched for us, guys? By default, which EC2 instance will be launched for us? By default, which EC2 instance will be launched for us? Come on. By default, which EC2 instance will be launched for us? on-demand instance will be launched for us. On-demand means when you need it, you can create it. Pricing is fixed for that. You pay the money for you use. No commitment. There is no commitment. Is there any commitment that minimum you need to use for 1 month or minimum you need to use for 1 year? Is there any commitment between the user and AWS cloud? Hey, if you create the EC2, minimum 1 month that should be running. Minimum 1 month that should be running. Is there any such kind of commitment? No. You can use for only 1 hour. You can use for only 2 hours. You can use for 1 month. You can use for 1 year. No, there is no commitment at all. That is the reason it is called as on-demanded instances. No upfront payments. You no need to pay anything also. You no need to pay anything also. That is on-demanded instances. Next one is reserved instances. Next one is reserved instances. What is the meaning of reserved instances? What is the meaning of reserved instances? Reserved instances means long-term commitment. Reserved instances means long-term commitment. It is something like a reservation. How you will reserve a ticket, a movie ticket reservation, flight ticket reservation, bus ticket reservation. How you will do the reservation for your usage. Similarly, you can reserve EC2 instances for long time. You can create one EC2 instance under reservation, so that EC2 instance will be available for you for long term. So when you go for reserved instances, long term commitment will be available. Now, in this reservation, upfront payment we have to do. We have to pay the money and we have to use that. Upfront payment we have to do. That means we need to pay the money and we need to use it. Okay, guys, a long-term commitment and upfront payments we need to do. First, you pay the money, then you take the instance. So this commitment, how many years commitment we need to provide? 1 or 3 years. You can reserve the instance for 1 year minimum, maximum 3 years. Minimum 1 year, maximum 3 years. You can reserve one instance in the AWS cloud. So that is reserved instances. Now see, reserved instances available. Currently, do I have any instance which is reserved? No. Purchase reserved instances. Upfront payment. You pay the money and you purchase the instance. Then AWS will provide you long-term commitment. Upfront payment we have to do. Commitment will be there for minimum 1 year and maximum 3 years. Purchase reserved instance. What type of instance you want to purchase? So now they have given option, no upfront, partial upfront, all upfront. So if you don't want to pay the money also, you can use this. Partial amount you can pay for the AWS now and you can use that. Term 1 month to 12 months. That is the minimum term that you need to take. Or 12 months to 36 months also you can take it. Okay. Platform. What kind of platform you need? What kind of platform you want? Windows or Linux? What kind of machine that you need to take? 1 year or 3 years you can reserve. AWS will provide discount for EC2 instances reservation. EC2 instances, if you are going to reserve, then AWS will provide discount for you. So if you want a long-term commitment for 3 years, I want only this EC2 machine for my project. For 3 years, I want same machine for my project. Then you can reserve minimum 1 year, maximum 3 years. You need to reserve. You need to reserve. Okay. Next one, spot instances also available in the AWS cloud. Spot instances available in AWS cloud. Spot instances nothing but bidding auction will be available. Bidding or auction will be available. Bidding means AWS is going to provide a high-end system, high capacity system for low cost. Suppose for example, for my project, I have created one EC2 instance with a high-end configuration. I created a machine with a very high-end configuration. I have used it. My work is completed now. I'm stopping my business. I'm closing my business. I'm releasing these instances to AWS cloud. Then AWS will conduct a bidding festival offer. Auction will be available. That means high-end systems, high configuration machines will be given for less price under this spot instances. So when the bidding is happening, you can participate in the bidding and you can purchase the EC2 instances. Those are called as spot instances. Spot instances by using bidding and auction. Auction. That means huge capacity, high-end systems for low price. High-end systems, huge capacity for low price. Bidding, auction, high-end systems will be given for low price when we go for spot instances. When you go for spot instances. Now, here if you go to spot requests, request spot instances. Currently, we don't have any spot instances. So if you request for spot instances, AWS will tell you when high configuration systems are available for low price, they will intimate you, they will call you, or they will mail you. Then you can participate in that auction. You can purchase high-end systems for a low price. Those are called spot instances. And the next one, dedicated hosts. Dedicated host. Now, currently we are using virtual machine in the AWS. Virtual machine means we are creating one machine. We cannot see that machine with our eyes. We cannot see that machine with our eyes. We are creating one virtual machine and we are using that virtual machine for our requirement. Okay. So how we practiced our Linux? How we practiced our Linux, guys? Linux commands. To practice the Linux commands, I created one virtual machine. I cannot see that machine with my eyes, but I can connect to that machine and I can execute the commands. That is called virtual machine. So here you can set up your infrastructure by taking virtual machines from the AWS by using EC2. Okay, fine. But there are some customers who want to take a physical machine, not a virtual machine. They want to take a physical computer to set up physical machines they want for their project. They don't want to set up the infrastructure on the virtual machines. They want to set up the infrastructure by using physical computers in the AWS. So if any customer needs physical machines, then they can go for dedicated host machines. Dedicated host machine, allocate dedicated host machine. So here you can request AWS to allocate one dedicated host machine, physical machines, physical computer. AWS will allocate a physical computer for your account. So using that physical computer, you can set up your infrastructure. So these are dedicated host machines. In the dedicated host machines, all the licensed softwares will be provided. costly, much costlier. Dedicated host, dedicated host is much costlier than other instance types. So if you go for virtual machines, the cost will be less. If you go for virtual machines, the cost will be less. But when you go for dedicated host, the cost will be high. So in the AWS data center, they will allocate a physical machine, a physical computer that is required for your project. So you can use AWS machines virtually, or we can use AWS machines physically. So if you want to go with virtual machines, we have on-demand instances. Whenever we want, we can create an instance in the AWS. On-demanded instances available, no commitment, no upfront payment. You use it, you pay for that. Then next one, reserved instances available. It is like a reservation for 1 year or 3 years. Upfront payments we can do for that. Spot instances, nothing but bidding will be there. When AWS giving high configuration machines with high-end configuration machines, they are giving for low price. Then we can go for spot instances concept. And the next one is dedicated host concept is available. Dedicated host concept means AWS will use physical computer to set up the infrastructure. AWS will give you a physical computer in the data center. They will allocate a physical computer for us. They will allocate a physical computer for us. A physical computer for us. Are you guys getting my point? Physical computers they are going to provide for us. Those physical machines are very costly when compared with other instances. Okay. In the real time, we are going to use virtual machines only to set up our infrastructure. If customer wants physical machines based on the customer requirement, then we can go for host, dedicated host machine. Otherwise, we will use virtual machines only to set up our infrastructure. We will, we will use virtual machines only to set up our infrastructure. Yep. All of you, please read these points. We are trying to understand the most powerful service, the most demanded service in the AWS. What is that? EC2. EC2 is the most demanded service in AWS cloud. EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. EC2 is used to create virtual machines. Linux virtual machine, Windows virtual machine, Mac virtual machine, any kind of virtual machine we can create by using this EC2. The virtual machine that we create by using EC2 is called as one instance, or it is called as a VM, or it is called as a server. People will be calling with multiple names: EC2 VM, EC2 virtual machine, EC2 instance, a server, like that. Different names are available. Is this EC2 services are free of cost? No, EC2 is a paid service. But for learning purpose, for new people, AWS giving free tier account with 1 year free access for EC2. In that 1 year also, monthly 750 hours you can run the EC2 instances. If you cross that limit, then charges will apply. The minimum billing period for the EC2 is 1 hour. If you run the instance for 2 minutes also, they will consider that as a 1 hour. Bill will be calculated on hourly basis. So in the EC2, you pay for what you use. You use the instances and you pay for those instances. On hourly basis, they will calculate it. EC2 instances are resizable. That means you can change the size of the EC2. You can scale up the EC2 instances and you can scale down the EC2 instances. All right. In the EC2, instance types are available. What are those types? On-demand instances available, reserved instances available, spot instances available, and we have dedicated host instances. On-demand, reserved, spot, and dedicated host. Can you guys see what is on-demand instances? All of you, please read these points. What is on-demand EC2 instance? On-demanded, reserved instances, reserved instances. Reserved instances means long-term commitment, upfront payments we have to do. The reservation should be done for 1 or 3 years. AWS will provide the discount for EC2 instances reservation. Spot instances will be there, that is bidding, auction, high-end systems for low price, dedicated host, like this. Can you see the dedicated host? Are you guys clear with this now? Are you guys clear with this now? Yep. So EC2 instance types we understood. Next one, EC2 families, guys. EC2 families we need to understand. That means when we are creating EC2 instances, there are several families are available. There are several families are available. Okay. Now, families nothing but family member. What is the meaning of a family member? Family member means instance type. Family member is nothing but instance type. Okay. First we have seen T2 nano. That means it will have 0.5 GB RAM, 0.5 GB RAM, and one virtual CPU. One virtual CPU will be available when you go for T2 nano family. If you create a EC2 instance, whenever we are creating EC2 instance, it will ask you to select which family member we need to use. Okay, so here we are going to select family type. That means a family member instance type. T2 nano, T2 nano 0.5 GB memory, 0.5 GB RAM, one virtual CPU will be provided. Okay, guys. 0.5 GB RAM, one virtual CPU will be provided. T2 family, it is belongs to T2 family. In T2 family, nano is one family member. T2 nano, it will provide 0.5 GB RAM, one virtual CPU. And another family member we have T2 micro. Another family member we have T2 micro, that is 1 GB RAM, 1 GB RAM will be available. One virtual CPU will be available. T2 Nano 0.5 GB RAM, one virtual CPU. T2 Micro 1 GB RAM, one virtual CPU. AWS providing T2 Micro instances for free for first 1 year. As I told you, for 1 year we can use T2 Micro instance. That means T2 is a family, Micro is a family member. T2 is a family, Micro is a family member. Okay. Similarly, we have another family member, T2 small. T2 small will give you 2 GB RAM and it will provide two virtual CPUs. Similarly, T2 medium is available. Similarly, T2 medium is available. T2 medium, it will be having 4 GB RAM. Okay. Similarly, T2 large is available. Similarly, T2 large available. It will have 8 GB RAM. Okay. Similarly, T2 X large will be available. T2 X large will be available. It will give you 16 GB RAM. EC2 families. EC2 family member, nothing but instance type will be available. T2 Nano 0.5 GB RAM and one virtual CPU will be available. T2 Micro 1 GB RAM, one virtual CPU. T2 Small 2 GB RAM, two virtual CPUs. T2 Medium 4 GB RAM. T2 Large 8 GB RAM. T2 X Large 16 GB RAM. So like this, in the EC2 family, there are several family members are available. Guys, whenever we are doing the practice, sometimes we will go with the T2 Micro, sometimes we'll go with the T2 Medium, T2 Large. Okay, because T2 Micro is a free tier. It is free of cost. Free of cost will be available. Are you clear with my point? Sir, in the real time, which family member will be used? In the real time, they will use either large or X large instances to set up our infrastructure in the real time. Large instances, X large instances will be used under a T2 in the real time to set up our project infrastructure. While doing the practice, mostly we will go with the T2 Micro because it is free of cost. While practicing, mostly we will go with T2 Micro, T2 Micro. For some softwares, 1 GB RAM, 1 GB memory not sufficient. We need minimum 8 GB or 4 GB. For that kind of software, we will use either medium or large instances. And mostly we will learn the AWS cloud services with T2 Micro. For one or two times or for one or two tools, we are going to use large instances. For that, hourly bill will be generated. For T2 large, hourly bill will be generated. Okay, guys. So T2 is one family. So similarly, there are so many families are available. R family available. R family, R6A is one family. R6A is one family. Okay. T3 family, Z1 family, A1 family, C1 family, T2 family. Like that, there are several families are available. By using those, we are going to create one instance. Under all these, I mean, out of among all these families, in T2 family, this micro member is free for 1 year. 1 year free. 1 year free with 750 hours monthly. 750 hours monthly. Sir, why we are using T2 micro in our course? The reason, it is free of cost. If you want to pay the money for AWS, then you can go with the remaining family members also while practicing. But I will tell you when we can use a T2 micro and when we need to use a T2 large in our course. For few topics, we need to go with 8 GB RAM. I will tell you at that time why we need to go with the T2 large. In the real time, mostly people will be using large and X large instances to set up the infrastructure. To set up the infrastructure. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Okay. Next one. EC2 instance states are available. EC2 instance state. We are creating EC2 instance state, right? We are creating EC2 instance. Then what would be the status of that instance? Now see, in my account, I created several EC2 instances. Almost 16 EC2 instances I have created in my account. What is the status? What is the status and what is the type? Am I using only T2 micro for all? No. For Sonar, I'm using T2 medium. For Nexus, I'm using T2 medium. For Kubernetes, I'm using T2 medium because for Sonar, for Nexus, for Kubernetes, 1 GB is not sufficient. So that's why I'm going for T2 medium. When I go for T2 medium, I will get 4 GB. Okay, for Sonar, 1 GB is not sufficient. For Nexus server, 1 GB not sufficient. You see, we are going to create Sonar in one virtual. We are going to install Sonar in one virtual machine. To install the Sonar, we need minimum 4 GB. To install the Nexus, we need minimum 4 GB. To install the Kubernetes, we need minimum 4 GB. For Sonar, for Nexus, for Kubernetes, we are going to use T2 medium instances. So that is instance type. And can you check what is instance state? What is the current state of my instance, guys? Can you tell me? What is my instance state currently? Can you tell me that? My instance is currently in the stopped state. So when the instance is stopped, can I restart that again? If my instance is stopped, can I restart it again? Yes. So first time when you create a EC2 instance, first time it will be in the launch state. First it will be in the launch state. First it will be in the launch state. Second, it will come to running state, launch state and running state. And the third one, you can stop, launch, running, stop, stop, then reboot, then terminate. Terminate. Terminate means deleting, destroying, destroy, destroy. When the bill will be generated, guys, bill will be generated only for running machines. Billing applicable for running state. If your instance is stopped, or if your instance is terminated, then bill will not be generated. If your instance is in the running state, then only bill will be generated. Billing applicable only for running machines. In my EC2 currently, in my account currently, I created 16 instances. 16 instances I have created in my account, but bill will be generated for these machines. Bill will not be generated for these machines now. Bill will not be generated for these machines because the state of those instances is stopped. The state of those instances is stopped. Now you can start them. I can terminate them. Okay. So when I do termination, what is the meaning of termination? For example, my Linux VM is available. I want to terminate it. Terminating means we are going to lose the data that is available in the instance. Click on terminate. That instance is shutting down. That means it is going to stop and it is going to delete. That machine will be deleted from my account after few minutes or few hours of time. Terminated. So what is the meaning of terminated? That machine got deleted. If the machine got terminated, we cannot get it back. We cannot get it back once the EC2 instance got terminated. Once the EC2 instance got terminated, we cannot get it back. Whenever you delete that, whenever you terminate the EC2, you are going to lose the data also. You are going to lose the data also, which is available in that instance. For best practice, what we can do is we can launch an instance and install the softwares which are required. Once our practice is completed, then you can stop the instance. You can stop the instance. When you stop the instance, no billing. When you stop the instance, no billing will be generated. When you stop the instance, no billing will be generated. For running instances, billing is applicable. For stopped instances, billing is not applicable. Terminate means destroying the instance. Instances will be deleted. We cannot get those instances back. We cannot get those instances back when we go for this termination. When we go for this termination, we can't get these instances back. Okay. EC2 service internally uses below three concepts. EC2 service internally uses below services. One is AMI, second one is EBS, third one is VPC. EC2 service internally uses below services. Now, to create one virtual machine, in the previous Linux classes, just like that we created one EC2 machine, but now we are not talking about Linux, we are talking about AWS. Now, we need to understand each and every step clearly. We need to understand each and every step clearly now. So when we are creating one EC2 instance, internally that EC2 service will be using a AMI, Amazon Machine Image, EBS, Elastic Block Store, VPC, Virtual Private Cloud. It is going to use these services internally to create one virtual machine. So in the tomorrow session, I will talk about how to create one EC2 instance, and what it is using internally, what services it is using internally to create the EC2 instances. Okay, what is that EBS? What is that EBS? What is that VPC? Why it is using those services internally? Okay, so today we understood theoretically what is EC2, and why we are learning this EC2, what are the instance types available, and what are the instance families available, and what are the instance states available. Okay, so now in the next 1 week, we have to learn all the concepts which are available here. We have to learn all the concepts which are available here: AMI, volume, snapshot, security group, elastic IP, placement group, key pairs, network interfaces, load balancer, target group, launch configuration, auto scaling, all these concepts. If we complete all these concepts, then we can say that we know EC2 in the AWS. Okay, so from tomorrow, we are going to work on these concepts, guys. Okay, fine. Good. Thank you.